Now, Adonijah, the son of Haggith, went to Bathsheba, Solomon's mother. Bathsheba asked him, "Do you come peacefully?" Because, he tried to squeeze her out of the picture earlier, so can we really trust this guy? He answered, "Yes, peacefully." Then he added, "I have something to say to you." "You may say it," she replied. "As you know," he said, "the kingdom was mine. All Israel looked to me as their king. But things changed, and the kingdom has gone to my brother, for it has come to him from the Lord. Now, I have one request to make of you. Do not refuse me." "You may make it," she said. What's his request going to be, I wonder? He's outright admitting that he thinks the kingdom should be his, or at least he thought it was. So what's his request going to be? So he continued, "Please ask King Solomon. He will not refuse you." This is his mom. King Solomon, as we'll find out later, was a very female-friendly king. Okay? Whether it was with his mom or with any other woman, he was as female-friendly as any guy would have been in Bible times. So he is not going to refuse a request from his mother, at least according to Adonijah. "Please ask King Solomon, he will not refuse you, to give me Abishag the Shunammite as my wife." Remember her? That was the young girl they had lie down next to King David to transfer her body heat to him to keep him warm. We read about specifically how he didn't have sex with her. Okay? He did not come together with her. He did not marry her. She was not a wife or a concubine of his. She was still a virgin. He might have even been impotent. He may not even been able to have sex with her. But she was still the young girl tending him in his later days and literally lying right next to him to keep him warm. And people would have known that. They may or may not have been aware publicly about him not having sex with her, but they would have known about her being his heat doll, basically. So what Absalom is essentially asking for here is a way to get people to see. He's basically asking for this girl to be his wife so that he can get some credibility back as being the next king. We read about when Absalom came into town and he had sex with the women David left behind. The idea of taking the king's former wives to yourself was part of how you made yourself king. So he's making a play for the throne here. Actually, it's pretty blatant. It's pretty not even hidden. I'm not even really sure why he thinks he's going to get away with this, frankly. I guess he thinks that Bathsheba can talk Solomon into doing this. But this seems like a pretty foolish request to make, because it's only going to be interpreted one way. "Very well," Bathsheba replied. "I will speak to the king for you." When Bathsheba went to King Solomon to speak to him for Adonijah, the king stood up to meet her, bowed down to her, and sat down on his throne. So he's paying a great deal of respect to her. She's his mom. He had a throne brought for the king's mother, and she sat down on his right. The queen mother will be the most powerful position available to women in this kingdom as time goes on, and probably in many of the kingdoms. That's how, for a woman in this kingdom, that's how you reach your pinnacle of power, is to be the mother of the king. Being the wife of the king doesn't give you much, because the king has lots of wives. This guy will have 1,000 wives. So if you're a wife of a king, you're just one of many. But if you're a mother of a king, you're the only one of those. There can only be one mother of the king. So the absolute pinnacle of power for a woman in this day and age would have been to be the mother of the king. "I have one small request to make of you," she said. "Do not refuse me." The king replied, "Make it, my mother. I will not refuse you." So she said, "Let Abishag the Shunammite be given in marriage to your brother Adonijah." King Solomon answered his mother, "Why do you request Abishag the Shunammite for Adonijah? You might as well request a kingdom for him. After all, he is my older brother, Yes, for him, and for Abiathar the priest, and Joab, son of Zeruiah. Now, I don't know. I legitimately don't know. Actually, let me go ahead. Yeah, let's see. Okay. I don't know. The text doesn't say. The text does not give any indication what is going through Bathsheba's mind here. I personally do not believe that Bathsheba was naive enough to not see through Adonijah's request. Okay, I just think it's impossible. I mean, I talked about how powerful the position of Queen Mother was, and I just think it's impossible for her or for anyone in that day and time to not see. I don't know why Adonijah even. I guess he thought Bathsheba could talk Solomon into it, but this is such an obvious power move that I'm not even sure why he thought he could get away with this, unless he really thought Bathsheba could talk Solomon into it. I have a hard time believing that Bathsheba could possibly be, could possibly be so naive as to think that this was an innocent request that should be granted. I frankly just don't believe that. Like, I just can't believe that that's the case. My guess is that Bathsheba knew her son would have this reaction, wanted her son to have this reaction, and went ahead and made this request on behalf of Adonijah for the sake of provoking her son into having this reaction. That's my guess. My guess is that Bathsheba did not want Adonijah to be lingering around in the city because he was a threat. She knew he was a threat. My guess is that, but Solomon had given him peace. Solomon had not killed him and had given him an opportunity to continue living in the city, which Bathsheba may not have wanted him to do. I don't know. My guess is that Bathsheba is hoping to provoke her son into having the exact reaction that he has here. That's my guess. I don't know. Okay. It seems impossible to me to believe that anyone could be this naive to think that this is a harmless request that is no big deal to grant. I don't believe that. I don't think Bathsheba would be that naive. I just don't. So that's my interpretation of this scene. Okay, we don't have any of the characters' actual thoughts. Now we have their dialogue recorded. Their dialogue and their actions are recorded here, but we don't have insight into any of the characters' thoughts in terms of, what they're thinking as opposed to what they're saying or doing. So all we have about Bathsheba here is what she's saying and doing. She talks to Adonijah. She agrees to speak to her son on Adonijah's behalf. She does so, and that's it. Why she does so, what she thinks about it, is not mentioned. But again, it's just impossible for me to believe that she could have been that naive. It's impossible. I can't believe that. Like, to me, that goes so far against what I think about human nature and what I think about how a person in her situation would react. I just can't believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. If she's in heaven someday and I get there too, I might ask her what she was thinking at the time. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just how it seems to me. Then King Solomon swore by the Lord. This is capital L-O-R-D, Lord. This is the name of God here, Jehovah. May God deal with me, be it ever so severely, if Adonijah does not pay with his life for this request. And now, as surely as the Lord lives, he who has established me securely on the throne of my father David, and has founded a dynasty for me as he promised, Adonijah shall be put to death today. So King Solomon gave orders to Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, and he struck down Adonijah, and he died. So that's the fourth son of David. This is even after David's death. Okay? Just because David himself has died doesn't mean he still doesn't have that last part of his blood guilt to pay. He has finally lost his fourth son that he had to pay the price of for killing Uriah the Hittite. So he had the unnamed infant son that was the product of his adulterous affair with Bathsheba. We don't really know if it was rape or not, honestly. She didn't scream, apparently. It doesn't fit the... Remember, the Old Testament doesn't have a word for rape. But they do have a provision in their law about what to do if a man seizes a woman and has sex with her, and she screams for help and no one answers. Well, Bathsheba didn't scream for help, and David didn't forcibly... Like what Amnon did to Tamar was rape, by any definition, except that it was in the city, not the country. But he grabbed her forcefully, she screamed, she told him no. I mean, there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about that. David didn't forcibly grab Bathsheba, and Bathsheba apparently didn't scream, but he is the king, and he's having his guys go get her and bring her to him. It's very unclear what choice she actually had. The text never implicates her as being at fault. It only ever focuses on David's guilt, not hers. So it's hard to say whether that's rape or not, but it certainly is adultery, because they're both married. They're not for each other. And then he kills Uriah the Hittite to cover it up. So that adulterous affair results in an infant who dies, and then Amnon dies, and Absalom dies, and Adonijah dies. So now David has finally, even though David himself is now dead, he has finally paid back the 4 times that he owed for killing Uriah the Hittite. To Abiathar, the priest, remember this was a guy that was part of the coup, the coup attempt. He was the priest in charge of backing Adonijah. So he was a top guy in this affair. And he was the guy that was with David. That goes back all the way to David's flight from Saul. So there's a long-standing connection there. To Abiathar the priest, the king said, "Go back to your fields in Anathoth. You deserve to die, but I will not put you to death now, because you carried the ark of the sovereign Lord before my father David and shared all my father's hardships." So Solomon removed Abiathar from the priesthood of the Lord, fulfilling the word the Lord had spoken at Shiloh about the house of Eli. Remember that? That goes way back to 1 Samuel, the beginning of 1 Samuel. Let's see here. First Samuel 2. Or 1 Samuel 3. Where do I... Well, let's just read 1 Samuel 2. A man of God came to Eli and said, 1 Samuel 2, that was verse 27. Let's go down. Let's go down to verse 30. Therefore the Lord, the God of Israel, declares, I promised that your house and your father's house would minister before me forever. But now the Lord declares, far be it from me. Those who honor me I will honor, but those who despise me will be disdained. The time is coming when I will cut short your strength and the strength of your father's house. There will not be an old man in your family line, and you will see distress in my dwelling. Verse 35, I will raise up for myself a faithful priest who will do according to what is in my heart and mind. I will firmly establish his house, and he will administer before my anointed one always. Eli was not a member of the legitimate line of high priests. He was a member of the line of priests. Aaron had 4 sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. Nadab and Abihu died. Eleazar and Ithamar were the 2 remaining sons. Eleazar was the one, his son Phinehas. In the days of Phinehas, his son, Eleazar's son, they were promised the high priesthood forever. They were both priests, but the high priesthood was supposed to be with Phinehas, who was Eleazar's son. Eli and Abiathar are the line of Ithamar. So they're priests, but they're not high priests. Zadok, the other guy, is a legitimate line of high priests. So this situation finally, so we've had 2 high priests. Ever since David established, moved the Ark of the Covenant to Jerusalem, We've had two high priests. We've had one at Gibeon where the tabernacle is, and we've had one in Jerusalem where the Ark of the Covenant is. This is not the way it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be one worship side with one high priest, and of course the other priests. So we've had Zadok and Abiathar both serving as high priests. But this is not the way it's supposed to be, so Abiathar now is removed from being high priest, and it's just Zadok, which is actually back to the way it's supposed to be. So we've kind of finally gotten things back under control. However, Abiathar is not killed for his rebellion. He is simply removed and sent into, basically sent into forced retirement, more or less. So Solomon removed Abiathar from the priesthood of the Lord, fulfilling the word the Lord had spoken at Shiloh about the house of Eli. When the news reached Joab, remember Joab was also on Adonijah's side, who had conspired with Adonijah, though not with Absalom, he fled to the tent of the Lord and took hold of the horns of the altar. King Solomon was told that Joab had fled to the tent of the Lord and was beside the altar. Then Solomon ordered Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, "Go, strike him down." So Benaiah entered the tent of the Lord and said to Joab, "The king says, 'Come out.' But he answered, 'No, I will die here.' Benaiah reported to the king, 'This is how Joab answered me.' Then the king commanded Benaiah, 'Do as he says. Strike him down and bury him, and so clear me and my father's house of the guilt of the innocent blood that Joab shed. The Lord will repay him for the blood he shed, because without the knowledge of my father David, he attacked 2 men and killed them with the sword. Both of them, Abner, son of Ner, commander of Israel's army, and Amasa, son of Jether, commander of Judah's army, were better men and were more upright than he. May the guilt of their blood rest on the head of Joab and his descendants forever. But on David and his descendants, his house and his throne, may there be the Lord's peace forever." So Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, went up and struck down Joab and killed him. And he was buried in his own land in the desert, or buried in his tomb in the desert. The king put Benaiah, son of Jehoiada, over the army in Joab's position, and replaced Abiathar with Zadok the priest. So we finally got that all straightened out. There are no more successors, no more wannabe successors to the throne, no more rogue military commanders who go into business for themselves on a regular basis, no more split priesthood, no more split worship center, well, we got to get the temple built. So we have solved all those potential problems in our authority chain. Then the king sent for Shimei. He wasn't even part of the rebellion, Adonijah's uprising. But he's something else that David told Solomon to deal with after David's death. Solomon is just cleaning house all at once here. He's just taking care of all this business right away. Then the king sent for Shimei and said to him, "Build yourself a house in Jerusalem and live there. Do not go anywhere else. The day you leave and cross the Kidron Valley, you can be sure you will die. Your blood will be on your own head. You can be sure you will die." You know where we heard that language before? You know what he says here? The day you leave, you can be sure you will die. You remember where we heard that before? Chapter 2, Genesis, chapter 2, verse 17. "You must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for when you eat of it, you will surely die." And the day you eat of it, you will surely die. That's a legal terminology. It's a punishment for a misstep. So Solomon here is using the same kind of language that we read about in Genesis, about the day you do this, you will die. Shimei is going to do this here, but he's not going to die on that very day. Just like Adam and Eve will eat the fruit of the tree, but they didn't die on that very day. But they're basically saying that on the day you eat of it, you are guaranteed to die. You are doomed to die. It's a legal formality. By committing this act, you have doomed yourself to death. Whether it's that day or some later day, that by committing this act, you have doomed yourself to death. Shimei answered the king, "What you say is good. Your servant will do as my lord the king has said. And Shimei stayed in Jerusalem for a long time. He was basically under house arrest. He was a troublemaker. Remember, he tried to continue Absalom's rebellion after Absalom's death. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This was the other guy. This was the guy who was stirring up curses against David before Absalom's, well, as he was leaving from Absalom's rebellion. So he could still be a potential threat. At the very least, he was a nuisance to David. But 3 years later, a long time, in this case is defined as 3 years later, 2 of Shimei's slaves ran off to Achish, son of Maacah, king of Gath. That's where Absalom was from. And his mother, I should say, his mother. That's where Absalom fled to when he was running away from David. And Shimei was told, your slaves are in Gath. Excuse me, I got that wrong. Let me say this again. But 3 years later, 2 of Shimei's slaves ran off to Achish, son of Maacah, king of Gath. And Shimei was told, your servants are in Gath. Gath is one of those Philistine cities, the one that David actually fled to once upon a time. At this, he saddled his donkey and went to Achish at Gath in search of his slaves. So Shimei went away and brought the slaves back from Gath. I guess he thought it had been long enough. Solomon wasn't going to care any longer, I guess. When Solomon was told that Shimei had gone from Jerusalem to Gath and had returned, the king summoned Shimei and said to him, did I not make you swear by the Lord and warn you, on the day you leave to go anywhere else, you can be sure you will die? On the day you eat of the fruit of the tree, you can be sure you will die. It's a guaranteed legal language. That doesn't mean it will be that very day. It just means that as of that day, on that day, you are guaranteed to die. You are doomed to die. At that time you said to me, what you say is good, I will obey. Why then did you not keep your oath to the Lord and obey the command I gave you? The king also said to Shimei, you know in your heart all the wrong you did to my father David. Now the Lord will repay you for your wrongdoing. But King Solomon will be blessed, and David's throne will remain secure before the Lord forever. Then the king gave the order to Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and he went out and struck Shimei down and killed him. The kingdom was now firmly established in Solomon's hands. Solomon is the king, and no one is going to do anything about that at this point.